You belong on every ground your feet grace, so don't ever feel out of place. Take up space and belong. This earth is your birthplace. Hey loves, welcome back to the Sensual Genius channel. In this video, I'm going to do a review of Save Me For You by Tisha Andrews. Switch is an ex-street dude who turned his life around after getting shot. He opened a locksmith and security store with his cousin Dash since he was always good with locks and Dash was a tech whiz. Since his siblings and his father wasn't around, he dedicated himself to helping his mother take care of them so she wouldn't have to do it alone. He was in a relationship with a school teacher named Kelly until he realized she was too insecure for a healthy relationship. So now they co-parent their 10-year-old daughter together. Their failed relationship makes him settle for sex without a commitment. As a reformed street nigga turned successful business owner, he lives for his mother, sister and brother, and his daughter. Switch is at home getting his twin siblings ready for school when his baby mother calls him to remind him about an event their daughter had at school that she coincidentally forgot to tell him about. He assures her that he'd be there before professing his love to his daughter. Then he drops the twins off at school and heads to work. Gymani is in the break room of the hospital when Dr. Yukon fixes her some coffee and tries to persuade her to take a nap. He's being touchy-feely with her, trying to tempt her into allowing him to dine on her even though he's in a relationship with another woman. She tries her hardest to fight temptation and not have another slip-up with him like the one they had a month prior. Apparently, they had a friends with benefits situation that ended because she didn't want more. After finally convincing her to take a nap, he announces that he's getting married, causing her to choke on her spit. Although she isn't in love with him, or so she says, she is confused by his announcement. He tells her that the woman asked him, and he realized he loved her enough to accept her proposal. Gymani goes through a few emotions before she is able to accept good news without shedding tears or sharing her true thoughts about it. He's shocked that she just accepted it and tells her that she had until next summer to change her mind about their relationship. Before she gets to respond, she is called to help a patient in the ER. That is so crazy for you to tell somebody that you've been sleeping around with, hey, I'm getting married. She asked me and I said yeah because I realized I loved her enough to say yeah. No, you don't love her. You don't. Then to tell her she has until next summer to change her mind about her relationship. So you basically accepted this proposal with this other woman as a backup in case the woman that you really want to be with changes her mind and wants to be with you. And I feel like he accepted it because he thought that it was going to make her change her mind right then, but it didn't. So he gives her an ultimatum, talk about she got until the end of summer to change her mind. Like, marry that lady and settle like you were going to do in the first place and leave this lady alone. What's wrong with you? Gymani is called to help a patient who turns out to be Switch's brother Slim. He must have been cut in school and ride with someone he wasn't supposed to be with, and they got into an accident. She assessed his wounds and asked him questions about his medical history before she gave him pain meds to calm his pain. He had bruising and lacerations in his face and a deep one in his thigh, exposing his femur bone, so he needed surgery. However, a nurse came to announce that his mother was there, instantly scaring him. She tells Gymani that the mother wanted to see her, but before she could go, Slim told her to tell his mother that he loved her and he was sorry. Gymani found it funny that he was in that much pain but still worried about what his mama was going to do to him. She goes to meet the mama and assures her that her son will be okay when Switch walks up, intimidating and turning her on at the same time. He demanded a more thorough response from her, but she was mute in his presence. His mother pops his arm for coming at her aggressively and apologizes on his behalf. When Gemini finally finds her words, she tells them about Slim's injuries and tells them that Dr. Peterson will take care of his surgery. Switch demands that she does it and uses his mother to manipulate her until she finally gives in. She tells them they'll be updated during the surgery. He asks her when he'll see her again, and she tells him in a few hours. He tells her he'll be waiting. She nodded and goes to start the surgery. Switch and his family patiently waits for Slim's surgery to end. His grandmother, Skinny, and Dash are there in the waiting room with his mother and him. Skinny is Slim's twin sister. His mother is worried if Slim will bounce back, and he feels like whether his brother could play basketball or not, he'll be good because he worked hard for that to be so. While his family have idle conversation, he's anticipating seeing Gemini again. However, he has to go to his daughter's parent-teacher conference. Dash reminds him about it as he's checking his watch. Switch checks to see if his mother is okay for him to leave, and she tells him to go support his daughter before he can ask. As he's about to leave, Gemini comes out to update them. His mother jumps up and runs over to her with his sister in tow. Gemini tells them that the surgery went well and that Slim's a fighter and he'll make a full recovery. Switch stands there and watches as she ignores him, but he vows to put in effort to explore their connection because he feels a connection to her. The mama asks when she could see her son, and Gemini tells her she'd be able to see him in an hour. Skinny asks if she could too, and Gemini tells her briefly. Then she finally acknowledges Switch by giving him brief eye contact, but turns her attention back to his mother and asks if she has any questions. He finds the way she was playing things funny, but isn't deterred by it. While things are transpiring, he notices Di effing Gemini and quickly shuts it down. His mother realizes what's going on and tells Gemini she has one request. When Gemini asks her what it is, she tells her that she's invited to the family reunion over the summer and it's not optional. Switch double downs on it and low-key gloats at his mama for being a good wingman. Dash cheers Switch on and calls his nickname, making Gemini question it. He tells her that's what his friends and family call him and excuses himself for having to go, but not before he makes it known that he'd see her at discharge. Then he walks off. Harrison checks Gemini during her next surgery because he was spying on her and saw the interaction between Switch and her. It was clear that he was jealous. She tries to ignore him so she could focus on her surgery. When she's finally done, she goes to search for him to tell him off as she makes her rounds, and she's greeted with an attitude from his fiance as rumors spread about what happened during surgery. She tells her that he left for the day, but when she goes to shower, he shows up in the bathroom and undresses. She tells him he has some nerve. He tells her he was out of line and asks her to let him have sex with her one last time. She agrees out of pettiness, so they have sex while he begs her to come back to him. She ignores him as thoughts of Switch plagues her mind. He tells her to say the word and he'd cut things off with his fiance. She accidentally says yes while fantasizing about Switch. Then she quickly tries to renege, but he turns a deaf ear to her and keeps stroking her until he nuts inside her. She curses Switch's name for causing trouble without being around and plans to buy a Plan B immediately. Switch goes to his daughter's parent-teacher conference. He learns that she's going to be skipped up 2 grades and he congratulates her but wishes her mother would have spoken to him about it first. He doesn't want his daughter to be exposed to things she may not be able to process yet. His baby mother suggests they go out to eat and his daughter agrees. However, he lies and says he has to go to work early to get out of it. Then he bends down and whispers to his daughter that they would get pizza after work. His baby mama gets annoyed that she couldn't trick him to spend more time with them. By the way, she's married and she keeps trying to get him alone or get him to spend time with her and their daughter so she can be close to him, and he keeps avoiding her. To spite her further, he daps her husband up and invites him to hang out. He plans to give him the game so he'd know how to handle his baby mama. They exchange numbers and the husband seems genuinely happy. He thinks the husband is weird but knows that he needs to give him the confidence he needs to stand up to his baby mama since he plans to pursue Gemini and knows he'll have issues with his baby mama when it's time for his daughter to meet her. He leaves and goes straight to the hospital and immediately runs into Gemini. He speaks to her and is shocked when she asks him to go someplace else and talk. Gemini feels like she's under a spell when she's around Switch. She asks him to go somewhere and talk, but she didn't mean to. He tells her that he'd love to, but he needed to check on his mom and brother. It makes her wish she knew what it was like to be loved by a family like theirs. She wishes she felt the way he felt about his mother. She tells him that his mother was all smiles, thank God, and he tells her thank her too. Then he kisses her until someone blows the horn at them to move out of the way because they're in a parking garage. He apologizes and tells her to take his number and he'd love to see her tomorrow. He tells her to get some rest because she's going to need it messing with him. He called his phone from hers, walks her to her car, gets her buckled in, kisses her again, and goes into the hospital. After he's inside, she leaves and goes to Target to get her Plan B. While there, she runs into Dr. Adler, Harrison's fiance. The two of them share petty banter around the fact that she knew Gemini was involved with Harrison, but she was being too proud to confront her about it directly. After she tells the doctor that the lemon cough drops were good for giving head, she won the petty contest and walks away, dodging Harrison, who was also there, and went about her business, knowing Dr. Adler would use her tip after she gathered herself. Switch and Gemini finally meet up when she comes to his house. She shows up with a bottle of wine. He tells her he told her to come as she was, but she said the southerner in her couldn't help herself. Switch is immediately turned on by her, but he controls himself. He welcomes her into his home and says it feels like she entered his soul. She looks around his home and he tells her that they were alone. She looks fearful to be alone with him. Switch planned to enjoy the one-on-one time he had with her before he questioned her about the doctor he saw pissed about their interaction at the hospital. She asks him if he lives alone and he says he lives with his mom and siblings. He asks her if she has a big family and she tells him she's close with her sister. He notices that she doesn't mention her parents. He tells her to tell her sister that they needed to meet up soon. She blushes and says sis because he calls her sister sis. He tells her why not, since he was working on making me, he's like, why not? I'm working on making you mine, so she's my sis. She starts fidgeting and he asks He asks if his boldness bothers her. She says no, but he knows it does. He tells her he rarely minces his word. She tells him she could tell from the hospital. He asks her what else can she tell about him. She tells him that he loves his family and he'll fight for the people he loves. He asks her about Dr. Harrison and if she had sex with him. She says yeah. He tells her he sees. Then she tells him it won't happen again. He tells her wise choice because from today forward no man should ever know her like that again. He kisses her and tells her he wants her badly. She wants him to, but he tells her not right now and backs off. She's desperate for him, but he tells her they have time to get there. He tells her she was going to help him cook. She tells him that she can't cook. He says he's prepping right now, but he still wanted her to help him cook. She tells him she didn't think he was serious. She says boiling water is a struggle for her and that she gets food catered to her on Mondays. He tells her no more caterers. He said he wanted to get her used to him and says he is struggling to focus around her. He smells her neck and asks if she was born in a peach patch because she smelled like peaches. She laughs. She asks who was he. She said that he was someone who's trying to change her life and asked if she ever wanted to fall in love. She asks what love is with a sad look in her eyes. He tells her he doesn't know, but he wouldn't mind exploring it with her. He says he wants to put more than dick in her life, but definitely dick. He tells her it's hers if she wants it. His phone rang before she could respond. Like, he literally is like putting pressure on her hard, like trying to get her to like bend to his will or whatever, or trying to get her under his spell or whatever. And it's working. It's working. Even though like she kind of scared of him because he's coming at her super hard. Gymani is gushing at the way Switch is talking to his daughter on the phone. His daughter giggles, ate some seafood, and ends up getting sick. Gymani starts asking for her symptoms, and he's repeating it while feeling up on her. She's impressed and turned on that he's able to multitask by talking to his daughter and then feeling her up and kissing on her too. He tells Giggles he'd be over to see her in a little bit, and Gymani is taken aback by it, but still wishes that he invites her. She tells him she's about to leave so she wouldn't assume that she was going with him. He tells her that she's going with him and to stop running from him. She's nervous about meeting his daughter too fast and says he's a hypocrite for telling his daughter to slow down, but he's moving fast with her. She'd been a part of the family and everything. When he gets off the phone with his daughter, he kisses her deeply and asks her if she was ready so they could go see Giggles. She's not ready, but she follows him since she wanted to be around him. They are overgrown people, but the back and forth, the banter between them feels very like young love in high school. I like when it's like that. It's kind of like that infatuation phase when you first start talking to somebody. I think that usually is the fun part of dating. And hopefully if you have a healthy relationship, that part of dating never goes away, but a lot of the times it does. Switch takes Gymani with him to see Giggles. Gymani gives Kelly orders to help Giggles feel better. Kelly asks her who she is, and she introduces herself as a doctor. Kelly asks her why she was there, and Switch interrupts her and escorts Gymani to Giggles' room. Giggles is happy to see her daddy and the doctor. She tries to get up to greet them, but Gymani pats her head and tells her to get her rest. Giggles tries to convince Switch to get some pizza and come back so they can all get to know each other. Switch tells her nice try since she was sick and couldn't eat solids, and told her they'd go out for pizza when she gets better. He did all this without asking Gemini, but she agrees and tells Giggles they'd go on a girl's date. Switch is appalled and says he's only the wallet. Gemini says they have their own money, but if he behaves, he can come. Giggles agrees, so he has no choice but to accept it. He is impressed that she was able to win his daughter over, so impressed that they have sex after their brunch. Gemini goes to Dr. Harrison to ask for 2 weeks off of work. She was burnt out and needed to get away from him and his antics, and Switch as well. Dr. Harrison was hesitant to give it to her. He even asked her if her requested time was due to the plan B he saw her with in the drugstore. She told him no and confirms that she took it. He tells her he couldn't believe she did it without his consent. She is appalled and feels like he should have been thanking her for considering he was engaged. But we all know Harrison don't like that lady. Like I said, we all know Harrison don't like that lady. He tells Gemini she was playing God. She asks if he was approving her vacation time or not. He tells her he knows what her request is about and accuses her for caring about him moving on and getting married, and says he wasn't the only one effing in that bathroom. He tells her she was enjoying it too while approaching her and cupping her vagina in his hand. Before she could react, Dr. Adler walks in, making Harrison pull away from her and retreat behind his desk. I can literally not stand this man. I cannot stand him. I cannot stand men like him. How dare you question this woman about this man that she don't even really know, when you just accepted a proposal from a woman you don't like to try to push her to change her mind about wanting a serious relationship with you. Got the nerves to give her an ultimatum, and then when she tries to take a break, you don't even want to give her a break. You too busy worried about her taking a plan B so she can prevent herself from getting pregnant from your baby, when you know that you are in a committed relationship. He is a sick man. Harrison announces that he was just telling Gemini that they'd miss her while she was on her vacation. She knows something is up. Dr. Adler knows something is up, so she asks Gemini if that's all it was. He tells her it was, then kisses her. Instead of getting on him, she plays into his lie after he kisses her and announces that something huge is happening. Gemini tells them she has to go. Dr. Adler tells her to wait because she has something to tell her. Like a dummy, Gemini stops and turns around. She makes a mental note that she'd type up her letter of resignation when she got to her best friend's place. Dr. Adler announces that Dr. Harrison proposed to her and flashes Gemini the ring that Dr. Harrison bought Gemini and proposed to her with before he gives it to Dr. Adler. He's such a terrible person. Dr. Adler tells Gemini not to tell anyone because he just did it. Harrison is freaking out because he's caught up. Dr. Adler asks if he's okay. Then she acts like she just realized that they had history between them and says she's sure it sucks for Gemini, but apologizes. She goes to hug Gemini, but Harrison gets in between them before Gemini snapped on her and tells her that she needed to go on her long overdue vacation. Gemini agrees that it's long overdue and leaves. When she gets to the parking garage, she sees Switch and immediately hides from him because she isn't in the conditions to see him. However, he still ends up seeing her while he's on the elevator. He calls out her name, but she all but runs to her car. She also ends up running into the daughter and parents of one of her exes, Dexter. The little girl she ran into is Dexter's daughter, and then the people she was with was his parents. They remember her since they caught them having sex back in the day, but she tells them they had the wrong person. Then she gets a text from Dexter that he couldn't wait until she got back from her vacation since they'd be working together. She blocks his and switches number because she was overwhelmed by all the events happening in her life. If that weren't bad enough, someone broke into her house from her garage. Switch calls her from someone else's phone after she doesn't answer after she blocks his number and asks her if that's how they do, but she hangs up on him so she could call the police and AT&T to change her number. Then she declares that she is celibate. Switch refuses to let another doctor touch Slim in Gymani's absence. Slim got an infection in his leg after his surgery, and the family is freaking out without Gymani being around. He's trying to console them, but he's upset that Gymani was ducking him and blocked him from her phone. He has a flashback of the first time they had sex and admits to being hooked on her already. He thought that things were good between them until he saw her in the parking garage. He knew she was triggered by something, but he was upset that she didn't just talk to him about it. His mother tells him that Slim is suffering and he needs help as soon as possible. Switch asks Slim what he wants to do. Slim tells him he wants to wait until they find Dr. Chandler. Switch lies to his mother and tells her his phone is dead because he doesn't want them to know what happened between Dr. Chandler and him. He leaves the room and calls her from his mother's phone. She answers, but she hangs up when she hears his voice. He's pissed, so he tries to go to who he thinks is the reason for her sudden change. However, Harrison isn't at the hospital when he goes to look for him. He runs into an office assistant who he tells to give Gymani a message about his brother's condition. Then he goes back to Slim's room and tells his family he couldn't get in touch with her. Slim decides he would go with the next best doctor. He's in pain and he's crying, so he's just ready to get it over at this point. The whole family is pretty much crying at this point. The grandma tells them that they needed to pray. As soon as they join hands, someone knocks on the door, and it's Gymani. Switch is so heated with her that he refuses to let her in until his grandma hits him and makes him. Gymani walks inside and greets the family before she assesses Slim's injuries. Switch is pissed at her and he's seething while she's talking to his family about the next steps to help Slim. When she mentions that her home was broken into, he calms down a bit and plans to install a security system in his head. His mother and grandma are being nurturing to her, and he realizes that he's dampening the mood, so he tells his sister he's about to go. Before he gets to leave, Gymani tells them she's ordering labs for Slim so they can get out of there. Skinny says her too and talks about being hungry. The grandma volunteers for Switch to cook them some chicken. Switch objects, but his granny hits him and orders him to go cook the chicken. She tells him to stop acting like a child. His mother and grandmother nurses Gymani some more, and Switch watches as she telepathically pleads with him to save her. They continue to plan family events for her to attend, and Granny tells Switch to go cook the chicken again. He says only if Gymani says please. She does. He tells her only if she eats with him as he drags his nose along her ear while his mama, grandma, and sister squeals. She nods. He tells her she better not run from him again. She goes back to doctoring. Then she tells them once Slim is good that she was taking time off. Switch tells her she can only do that if he goes with her. Then he tells her she can leave for a little while, but only if she lets him install a security system for free. He tells her that the warranty is for life and asks if she plans on sticking around and being a part of the family for that long. So basically, he's trying to sucker her into staying with him. Gymani is at Serenity's house. Serenity tells her about a get-together she's planning and says she invited Gymani's dad and sister. She tells her that she needs to keep in touch with them and stop prioritizing work over her family and friends. Then she tells Gymani about her new guy, which is Switch's cousin Dash, but neither of them knows that. Neither of them knows that. Plus, Serenity knows Dash by Jose. Serenity tells Gymani that Dash has 3 daughters with 3 different women, and Gymani is shocked by that news. Serenity tells her she's not trying to marry him, she just wants to have fun. She says they haven't had sex after telling her he nicknamed her Heaven. She also tells her she needs her on God mommy duty since she was planning to leave with him after the get-together. Gymani is okay with it and says Salem would never replace her. Serenity tells her she isn't replacing her either. She says that love is out there for her too. She just has to open her heart and receive it. She says Gymani is an excellent ER physician, but she'd be just as good in love. Gymani doesn't think so though. Switch is bringing in groceries when his mother starts talking to him about Gymani. She tells him that he's too rough with her and he needs to soften his approach. She also brings up Kelly and how Kelly has Switch wrapped around her fingers, but he should have asked for a psych evaluation while dealing with her. Then they start talking about her relationship with his dad, and she gets emotional thinking about the mistakes his father made by choosing the streets over them and how it broke her heart. He tells her that sometimes you have to put your foot down with the ones you love and not give them a choice but to hear you out or feel what you're saying. She tells him a woman like Gymani isn't used to being offered what he's offering, so he needs to be patient and gentle with her. He admits that he likes Gymani and says she won't stop playing with him. His mother tells him not to run her off and gives him her house key to change her garage door. He admits that he already ordered a new door and has changed her locks. She asks him why. He tells her so she'd come running back to him when she returns and says he'd be a fool not to realize she was a prize. She hugs him for expressing himself and tells him not to mess it up. Gymani finally opens up to Serenity about Switch. At first, Serenity chokes on her wine when Gymani says she likes Switch. She also talks about the love extended to get to her by his family, and Serenity tells her she should welcome it. Gymani tells her that her feelings for him is beyond sex, but she doesn't know what she's doing. Serenity reminds her that it's okay for her to have feelings for someone. She also talks about wanting to get to know Dash better, even though they don't know Switch and him are cousins. Serenity tells Gymani to go for it and reminds her that she deserves it. Switch and Dash are installing the garage door for Gymani when Dash asks him to go to Serenity's house with him and be his wingman so he can get some time alone with her. Switch agrees to go as long as the friend didn't try to hook up with him. Switch goes to pick up Giggles for their daddy-daughter day. Giggles tells him that her mama said she could stay. He asks Kelly if that were true and she agrees. She asked him how long he was going to keep her, and he said a few days. She invited him inside, talking about Walter is out with their son and telling him she made some tea to lure him in. He turned her down and tell her to remind Walter of their boys' day out. Giggles and him leave and go get pizza. They run into Harrison while there. He was with his fiance. Harrison follows Switch and Giggles to the bathroom and tries to press Switch about Gymani, telling him she turned in a letter of resignation. He tells Switch Gymani doesn't want him since they just had sex the other day. Switch asked him when she released. He was like, when she released her mouth from around my penis. And Harrison's fiance overhears him saying he slept with Gymani. Switch tells him to stay away from Gymani and tend to his ditzy girl. Then he walks off as the lady yells at Harrison. Gymani is talking to her dad about opening her own practice. He's not sure it's a good idea. They go back and forth a bit about the past and his parenting until she gives him a half-hearted compliment about her sister and her not being too bad, so he wasn't too bad. He asks for a hug and she gets emotional when she finally gives it to him. When Serenity and Kimya, who is Gemini's sister, returns, they pick out clothes for her to wear on her getaway with Dash. Gymani tells them their dad went to get a gun after she told him about Switch. She talks about him needing it to teach her how to shoot it or using it to scare Switch when they finally meet. Kimya is shocked that she's allowing their father to meet a boy. She says when she gets back, she's going to stop running from him. Serenity tells her she's happy for her. Kimya jokes about needing to get a gun too, then says she will be the only adult there to watch Salem since Serenity and Gymani were both in like with men. Serenity tells her all she needs to do is get married and be barefoot and pregnant. Dash and Switch are on the way to see Serenity while Dash is asking Switch to behave himself so he won't mess things up for him. Switch makes it known that he was just going for support since he was stuck on Gymani. Switch is texting her all the way there while he's giving Dash a pep talk. When they get there, he gives him a little boost of motivation. Then when they get to the door, Gymani ends up being the one to answer the door and both of them are surprised and Switch jumps on her quick. Everybody meets and Serenity is shocked that Dash and Switch are cousins. She pulls Gymani to the side and asks her if she wanted her to ask them to leave while Kimya distracted their dad, but the dad walked up on them and asked as the dad walks up on them as they are plotting. He tells them that Dash and Switch was going on a ride with him. Switch overhears and says he's down as he introduces himself. The dad tells Switch and Dash to follow him. Kimya is amused while Gymani and Serenity are afraid. Switch walks up behind Gymani and tells her to save all that crying for when he was inside her. Kimya cheers him on. He tells Gymani that he handled Harrison and he was going to show her father that he wasn't the only one who knew how to use a shotgun. So basically he telling her, you ain't got to worry about that little problem that you was running away from at home because I handle it. And you don't have to worry about your daddy because I'm about to become his best friend and he's about to love me. So ain't no need for you to be over there crying and worrying because everybody loves me and ain't nobody gonna stop us from being together. That's basically what he was saying. In the epilogue, Switch, Gymani, and his family are getting ready for the family reunion. Gymani and him and Dash and Serenity had been dating for a few months. He took his father and mother's advice and softened up for her. The two of them were happy, in love, and planning a future together. I give this novella a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a pretty good read. I wish it was longer and slower pace, but I understand that it's a novella and not a novel. I do recommend it and I do think that it's worth reading. I think that it was cute to see two people who were initially afraid to commit for different reasons. Switch just never found a woman that inspired him to want to commit. Gemini was afraid to commit because she didn't see healthy examples of a relationship in her life, and she didn't have a good relationship with her mom and neither her dad. So it was cool to see two of them meeting each other and becoming instantly attracted to each other, and eventually their minds changing about making a commitment. Switch putting the pressure on Gemini and not allowing her to resort to her bad habits to keep her from finding love in this situation. And I'm happy that they both got their happy ending, and I would love to see an update on them, but I doubt if I don't know if there's a book 2. I would have to check, but I would love to see an update on them or whatever to see how things worked out. But other than that, it was a pretty good book. I really liked it, and I think that y'all would like it too. But thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this story. If you've read it, if you haven't read it, but you're going to read it after watching this review, please come back and let me know what you think. Also, let me know what you think about the review as well. I said that I was going to start my deconstruction series with the movies that I want to do, and I'm going to start doing that probably next month, because I'm probably going to start doing it when I stop writing, because then I have time to create other content, and I feel like I need more time to do that because I would have to watch the movies, deconstruct them, and like put my thoughts and stuff out there. I also am still going to start my podcast as well for this channel, so stay tuned for all of those things. But for now, I'll do reviews, vlogs, my poetry, and all of the other videos that I've been doing. And I hope you guys are enjoying it. Let me know if you guys have been enjoying my content. I have been being consistent, and I have been seeing my views go up slowly but surely, and I'm going to keep being consistent because I do want to grow my channel. So I guess give me a progress report. Like, if y'all don't mind, let me know how y'all feel. Do y'all like the direction that I'm going? Do y'all like the consistency? Do y'all want to see something else? Are y'all looking forward to my deconstruction videos on the romance movies and why we shouldn't put them on a pedestal and use them as guides of how we should be in romantic relationships? Are y'all looking forward to that? Are y'all looking forward to seeing more content by me? Also, what else would you want to see by me? But thank you again for watching. I will see you in the next video. Bye. Before you go, check out my website at srgraham.org and subscribe to my mailing list to get exclusive updates on works in progress, other news, and blog posts. Thank you.